So I want to tell you guys a story that I've probably told before, but it fits today's talk so well. And it's about an experience that I had at Walmart one time. Anybody here ever have an interesting experience at a Walmart or any store in particular? Yeah, one where you're like, I don't ever want to go back there again. Anyone ever been kicked out of a store or not let back in just for fun? Yep, awesome. The Hoovers, I know it, I knew it. So here's my story. Walmart. My wife and I were in line. She's pregnant with our first kid, Vale, and we're standing there. She's uncomfortable. She's mad at me. You know, the normal stuff, right? And so I'm just doing that to give her a hard time. So we're standing there in line, and on our left is this person leaning up against this cart just like this, bending over, right? Except when he bent over, there was a lot going on. I'm talking crack and a lot of hair. Like this guy needed a trimmer, okay? So that was our left. And then to our right was this 10-year-old and his mom. They're just standing there talking, and all of a sudden I hear the kid go, I need to throw up. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, the bathroom's right there, buddy. And all of a sudden he just loses it all over his mom's shirt. So on our left is the crack, and on our right is the puke, and I'm like, I'm abandoning my wife. I'm out. So she hasn't forgiven me for that. But that's why we shop online now through Walmart. We do the grocery pickup because of that. So if you're like us, yep, there you go. Grocery pickup was amazing, 2 o'clock today if you want to join us. Another story I want to share with you that was really messy. My buddy Ryan, you guys have probably met him by now. He comes every single week, helps us set up, does a great job. He lives over in Sun Willows by the golf course in Pasco, and there are tons of squirrels over there. And I told him one week, dude, I had to stop for like 3 squirrels on picking you up because they just wouldn't move. He's like, dude, they'll move. Just keep going. So I'm like, okay. So yesterday, I go to pick him up. I'm on my way to my nephew's t-ball games. I was like, hey, you want to go watch baseball? He's like, sure. So we're on our way down. Anyways, I'm driving to pick him up, and there's 3 squirrels running across the street again. So I just keep on going. And guess what happened? I squashed one. It was disgusting. I killed a squirrel. I'm like a hunter now. Take that, John and Jesse. Yeah, I'm going to mount it when I get home. I'll take a picture of it. Hashtag man now or man card. So I squashed it. All right, so that was a real messy story. That's still there. I picked it up this morning. I still saw him. So R.I.P. But the next messy story I got for you, I'm just flying through these stories because this is just a fun day, is I'm going to tell Ryan again. He played coach pitch years ago, right? He's like 4, 5, or 6 years old. And if anyone knows Ryan here, man, he's really competitive. Like, he doesn't like to mess around, even if it's like with a 4-year-old. So we'll never let him lead in kids because he'll make them cry. And so here he is playing coach pitch. And the cool thing is his mom is his coach, right? So that's a really cool moment for mom. And if you don't know coach pitch, it means the coach actually pitches to their team. So his mom is pitching to him. And she just had an off day. We all have off days, right? She's not throwing the ball where he can hit it. And so he gets ticked off, chucks his bat, and charges his mom. And luckily his dad was the assistant coach and ran out and grabbed him before he could get to his mom, where he was going to tackle her and take her out. And Ryan, at the age of 5 years old, gets kicked out of a game. And guess who has to stay, though, and coach the rest of the game? Embarrassed and just mortified. His mom, right? That's a messy situation. So we'll work on him later, don't worry. But that leads me into this month's series where we're calling it Be Messy. And we're going to spend the entire month of June, maybe the whole summer, because this is just a huge heart of mine. And I believe it's just going to be our culture moving forward. And we're going to use, for this month at least, summer movies to help us talk about culture and how messy it is. And the movies that we're going to talk about this month is Ready Player One, Avengers, the new one, Han Solo, they call it Solo. I think it's a new Star Trek movie, right? Isn't it Star Trek? I just made Isaac really mad. And he's actually speaking on that, so he'll cuss me out later. And then the last one, Incredibles 2. Amanda and Morgan are actually going to talk on that one, which I'm really excited about because Amanda's our family life coordinator, and she does a great job with all of our kids. Morgan helps lead our Blue Bridge youth, so they're going to cast vision for their ministries as well. So those are the movies we're going to talk about to use as an example of what it means to be messy in today's culture. And today, I get to talk about the movie Ready Player One, which I absolutely loved. So let's watch the trailer real quick. So some of you might have recognized that song from Willy Wonka. It was redone. This is actually a book. It's actually kind of taken from the Willy Wonka universe in the sense of here's this really rich guy named James Halliday, and he creates this incredible world of almost like a virtual reality world for a world that is just completely broken. The crops are gone. There's a ton of poverty across the entire world. It takes place in the future in 2045. And so this guy creates this world called the Oasis, where you put on these goggles and you can become anything you want. And it has real life implications as well, because your fortune is inside this world. And he ends up passing away. He's a multi-trillionaire. And he leaves these Easter eggs inside this Oasis world for these people to begin to go find. And whoever finds the 3 Easter eggs gets to then take over the business of Oasis and inherit all of his money. So it's this race to find these Easter eggs. And then there's this company that's like the anti-James Halliday. They're the complete opposite of what they were hoping for Oasis to be. And he's like the evil man in the movie, the evil empire. And so it's these kids going up against all odds to find these eggs first. I'm excited to read the book because I love books way better. But that's the movie kind of in a synopsis. But here's 2 of my favorite quotes from the movie that are going to tie into today and what it means to be messy. So the first one is this. James, as in the creator of Oasis, always said the Oasis was never supposed to be a one-player game. And the second quote is, I created the Oasis because I never felt at home in the real world. I just didn't know how to connect with people there. I was afraid for all my life, right up until the day I knew my life was ending. And if you've seen the movie, if you read the book, this character, James Halliday, he's a very socially kind of awkward person because he's just a genius. And the movie's all about losing his love and also losing his partner in business. They had a falling out. So it's a fascinating movie. But here's how I want to tie it in today. Here's the tagline for this series, Be Messy. See, we believe in embracing the messy because we are messed up people. I'm messed up. There are days where I have really bad days where my insecurities take over and unfortunately leak into my marriage, leak into my work, leak into just me and my state of mind at times. And it can lead to poor choices at times. Throughout my whole life, I can point to different timelines where I can say, man, yep, that makes sense. But here's the reality. Being messy, the whole key is this. Loving others is hard. Because most of the time, we don't look at ourselves as messy people, do we? We look at others. So loving others is hard. And if you think about it, things that separate us in culture today, some real messy things like politics, Fox News versus CNN, Trump versus the world, what's he going to tweet today? Difference in religion. Just look at the Tri-Cities alone. Yes, it's just growing so fast, but we're not that big. Look at how many churches are represented in the Tri-Cities just alone. And most of it's just theology separating us. Simple theology. Or how about this one, the big one on the view of the LGBT community? Judge, hate, the attitude of I know more than you type attitude towards them. See, all of these things and many more things lead us to putting up walls. Isolating ourselves with people who are like ourselves. Putting ourselves in environments where it's really hard to love others because the only people around us are like us. There's a verse in Isaiah 64:6, and it says in the Voice translation, we are all messed up. I love that verse because it's truth. It's real. It's raw. Read the Bible. It's a bunch of messed up people. Every stinking story. See, this series is simply about this, how we love people who are different from us. I'm going to talk about some real sensitive things, but don't get caught up in those things. Get caught up in that, how we love people who are different from us. You see, it's about any story can be redeemed by God. Any story can be redeemed by God. We have to believe it and live it. It's about the messiness of grace and truth. So here's what I want you to think on today while I'm speaking, is to begin to move from approval of others to the accepting of others. You see, you don't have to approve of who somebody is or who they're choosing to be for that season of life or what they're doing with that season of life. But you sure can accept them. In other words, love them. So today, as I introduce this series, I want to introduce a character in the Bible who we're all very familiar with. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 9 today. And I'm actually going to talk about Matthew, also known as Levi, depending on where he was at the time. He was known different names, different areas. But he was a tax collector specifically from the city of Capernaum. Some of you guys may be familiar with that city. It's where the paralyzed man was lowered through the roof by his friends, where Jesus was speaking and he healed him. A lot of cool things happened there. It's where actually Jesus called home for a long time before his ministry launched, because it was too dangerous to live where he grew up. But let's get back to Matthew. Here he was, a tax collector. You've probably seen that term in the Gospels, the four main Gospels, New Testament, Mark, Matthew, Luke, John. But here's the key about him as a tax collector. He specifically worked with Rome, focusing on a specific vocation, fisherman. So his forte as a tax collector was taxing Jesse as much as he could, to the point to where it was borderline corrupt. Hold on to that thought for a second, because I'll come back to it. He worked with the Roman government in a corrupt system. We all know what it was like, just like our government. Because he was a tax collector, he was used to writing and used to logging and used to being responsible with words and what he put down on paper. So why is that important? Because once he accepted the call to follow Jesus, which is actually not until 9 chapters in the story in Matthew, he began to log the story of Jesus. That's where we get the book of Matthew. And a side note of that is why that's so cool is Matthew took a gift that originally was hurting others, and it changed others forever. So because of Matthew, we have an incredible book about Jesus. So he went from being a corrupt tax collector to an incredible author. He used his gift for good. You see, Matthew, like I said, was destined to use his gifts. But before I go into Matthew 9 through 13, let's watch this clip real quick. So that's just a creative way to hear Scripture out loud. I'm going to read it again out of NLT. Here's what it says. As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at his tax collector's booth, so his office. "Follow me," Jesus said, "and be my disciple." Jesus said to him. So Matthew got up and followed him. Later, Matthew invited Jesus and his disciples to his home. I love that. As dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other how do you say that word? Someone help me out. Thank you. You guys are awesome. I got to find my spot. Sinners. But when the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with such scum?" It's a strong word to use, right? When Jesus heard this, he said, "Healthy people don't need a doctor. Sick people do." Then he added, "Now go and learn the meaning of this scripture." That's strong language right there. It's easy to read over that. But that's basically Jesus saying, get out of my face. You need to go reread this. Figure it out. I want you to show mercy, not offer sacrifices. So it's not about this legalistic, do this, do that, do this, and you're a Pharisee, you got it figured out. No, it's about mercy. How do you see and treat others? For I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners. There's a lot of messiness in just those 4 verses, right? From being called to follow Jesus to the dinner. There's almost two different events happening right here. And there's a lot going on. I would love for that to be turned into a 2.5-hour movie. Here's the quote that I didn't read that was inside there. I missed it. "Hey, Matthew, Once you get your life in order, then come follow me. Isn't that what Jesus said? Hey, Matthew, when those 12 steps are completed, you're good to go. Hey, Matthew, when you just greet for a year, then you can do the next thing. Then you can come with us. No, what does he say? Follow me. Leave your office and come follow me. And the cool thing is Matthew obviously said yes. And then he does something even cooler. Hey, why don't we come have a barbecue at my house? Let's come celebrate. I'll bring all my friends. And Jesus is like, let's do it. I love parties. I love being around people. So they have a barbecue. They have a meal together. But here's the thing. Everyone in that room at that time were a bunch of messy people. Coming from all kinds of vocations. Who've done a lot of bad things. Just like my story. And what happens is the Pharisees get a lot of flack in Scripture, unfortunately. They begin to look at it and say, what is going on? Why are you hanging out with that mess over there? And Jesus tries to grab them and shake them early on. You're missing it. I don't need another sacrifice. I need your mercy. I need you to see with your eyes and your heart the others, their hearts. Don't see them for their vocations or for their actions or what they might look like. See the heart that my Father created with his own hands. And the cool part, let's go back to where I talked about Matthew's specific job as a tax collector. Why this is so key. Who did I say he taxed? What was his focus? Fishermen, right? Now, why would that connect with the disciples? Weren't there a few fishermen that were called to be disciples in that same area? So I would not be surprised if those fishermen ran in a circle where they they knew who Matthew was. That's messy. So if you think these disciples were put together as the 12 Avengers who had these incredible, powerful gifts and they worked perfectly together, no, that's a messy team. And that was not by accident. Jesus was very specific with who he went and asked to follow him because he knew he was going to need a very specific kind of messiness to reach a messy world. I'm sure some of the disciples were thinking, why would he call this guy? He's corrupt. He's a jerk. Here's what I want you to try this week and beyond, throughout this whole summer. Have a messy conversation with someone. Let me define messy. Be vulnerable. What is something in your life that's just gotten messy? And you just need to talk to somebody, someone that you can trust, of course. Be vulnerable. That's what Jesus and the disciples did every time they broke off. They were vulnerable. There was no fakeness to them. That's why so many people were drawn to them. They didn't need another temple where they went in, it was just this show. No, people were looking for raw and real. The same thing people are still looking for today. Again, I'll go back to Ryan. This time I'm going to be nice to him. In the last few weeks, he's been hanging out with some of our close friends at a place called Brews over in Pasco. And he was gone there a couple of times and had beers with some of his friends, and they began to talk to him. Because they've been seeing Ryan on social media going to this church called Blue Bridge. And a lot of our friends growing up, they would never think that I would become a pastor or never think that Ryan would ever go to church. And they're still our friends today. You can throw your hands up. It's true, bud. You said it in the car. And they asked him this question, Ryan, why the heck do you go to church? And what I love about that moment is he's in a raw place, in a messy situation, with messy people who I call my friends and who I love. And his answer was, church is fun. He said some more stuff that was really nice. But you see, put yourself in environments where you have to be vulnerable. Put yourself around messy people. So many times we isolate ourselves to where it's hard to be raw with people because we're surrounded by the same people that we are, with the same beliefs. And the second part of that is be a safe person for someone to have a messy conversation with. I'm really bad at this. Courtney calls me out on it all the time. I quickly want to say, well, here's the answer. Here's the solution. Instead of just listening, right? Be that person that someone can come to and you can be trustful. That you're not going to judge them. You may not approve of what they chose to do or are choosing to be, but they know that they'll be accepted by you, no matter what. Another thing I'd love for you guys to try throughout this summer is there's a book called Messy Grace. I know a lot of you like to read, some of you don't, but I encourage you, if you're looking for a book to start with, even just read one chapter a week for crying out loud, read the book Messy Grace. It's a book that I'm going to walk through with our lead team. I don't necessarily agree with everything in the book, but boy, does it make you think, because the book is all about messy grace, and the author has an incredible story about having to show grace, because I won't spoil it for you. You can just read the bio of it, and you'll be like, whoa. Here's something else you can do with us this summer to show, to help messy people, because we're messy people, is serve with us here at Blue Bridge. Serving at Blue Bridge has been a part of the blueprint and the foundation from day one. That's not going to change, because I believe that's the church, right? This is a cool gathering, but a gathering, just us getting together and doing something. It doesn't have to be the same thing every single week. So here's a couple different opportunities, one coming up and one a little farther away. June 30th, end of the month, Saturday. We're going to partner with Service Peace Warriors. If you don't know about them, Google them. They're in a great local nonprofit that helps veterans in need. We've served with them before, so we're going to go back and do it again. The second thing is Sunday, July 15th, in place of a normal gathering like this, we're going to gather right out here in the grass, and we'll have this room available as well. And we are going to put on a kids' sports camp for our local community on a Sunday. Why? Because I don't want church kids to come to our VBS on a Thursday from other churches. I'm just going to be totally blunt with you. What's the point of that? I'm not interested in babysitting someone else's kid. What I am interested in is us as a church discipling kids who've never been discipled. Loving kids in a creative way on a Sunday, so families that maybe don't have a church might be interested in this because they don't go to church. They have nothing else to do on a Sunday. And so us as a church, we're going to sign up for different jobs, and we're going to gather on that day in place of this gathering, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Really, it's going to go 10 to 12. And then 12 to 1, we're going to barbecue hot dogs and have food and just hang out. We're going to have a ton of different opportunities. So if you're thinking, well, I don't play sports, or I hate sports, or I'm not that's okay. We have a role for you. Just be the star of that role, whatever it is. So that'll be July 15th. That's coming up in about a month. You see, our Creator never wanted us to do life alone. Think back to Adam and Eve at creation. That was a messy situation, right? Adam comes, God recognizes right away. He's lonely. He needs more than just me. So what's he do? He creates Eve. Things get messy. Jesus sitting at the disciples early on, after they'd seen him do incredible miracles and heard his incredible talks, he said, now it's your time. And what's he do? Go in twos. Book of Acts, the birth of the church, right? You could argue the birth of the church started with Jesus and the disciples. Peter, always mentoring somebody, some church leader. Someone's going with him on a missions trip. Same thing with Paul in the second half. always mentoring, always writing, always leading somebody. It brings me back to the movie Ready Player One, that quote I shared at the very beginning. James Halliday created Oasis. He said the Oasis was never supposed to be a one-player game. It was meant to be played with someone, because something special happens in community. Same thing is of God. God created you not to live life alone. Life's too messy. If you do, I can speak from experience, it's going to slowly defeat you. And most of the time we do it to ourselves because we isolate. So I listed off a bunch of things that you could partner with, and my challenge for you today is you have a Connect card. There's also a slide. You can connect with us over text message if you'd like as well, and that slide's behind me. You'll see the number. If you want to just text in a word or write on your card, man, this is what I want to be a part of this summer. I want to read. I'm going to read Messy Grace, Troy. Or you can count me in for July 15th, Troy. Or I'll make sure to have a messy conversation. And I'll be somebody that it can be trustful, and someone can have a messy conversation with me. I would love for you to take that simple stepping out, like I like to talk about, right? I always talk about if you can't step out here, it's going to be really hard to step out there, and share with me what you want to do this summer. So then I can partner with you and say, hey, how you doing with that? Are you liking the book? Can't wait to see you on the 15th. How would that messy conversation go? Can I pray with you before it or after it? So as a church, as Blue Bridge, here's my hope. We want to be a messy church. A church for the messy. A place for the messy. Let me give you some examples of what I mean by messy grace. These are some extreme ones, but they're real. It's called culture. What if someone at Blue Bridge started coming that struggled with being gay? What if we had someone at Blue Bridge who was struggling with porn? Guarantee it's going on. What if we had someone at Blue Bridge who just experienced an affair? What if we had a couple who wasn't married but living together? What if we had someone at Blue Bridge who struggled with a substance abuse? What if we had someone who would smoke a cigarette before service and then walk in? How would we look at that? How would we respond? Would we accept? Here's the reality. I don't want Blue Bridge to be a country club. I want Blue Bridge to be like Walmart. You can smile. It's okay. And here's what I mean by that. You walk into Walmart, you see every culture, from economics to skin color to social skills. It's just a mixing pot or melting pot. What's that saying? Was that right? Yeah. That's what I want Blue Bridge to be. That's who I believed Jesus' ministry was about. It wasn't about judgment. It wasn't about approval. It was about accepting. And again, it doesn't mean you have to sit with your pom-poms and say, oh, everything's totally fine, no problem. But you can still accept and love. It's hard though, right? Those things I listed are tough things. There's a lot tougher things I could have listed as well. See, our job is not to approve. That's God's job. Our job is to accept. Bottom line, we want to be a church that creates environments where people can belong before they believe. So my hope is that we can go here as we kick off this series, embrace the messy in our lives, because we all have mess in our own lives, right? And tackle it together. If you ever need support on anything, don't feel shameful. Reach out. Talk to us. Because we're going to build a team that accepts, not judges. I want to build a culture here of yes, it's hard to love others. It's hard to love people. But it's what we're called to do. Because we're all messed up. I'm going to invite the band to come back up. Let's pray. So Jesus, I just, I thank you for the example that you set in your own ministry, the days where you literally walk this earth. I thank you that you sat at a table with a bunch of messy people. I thank you that you love me, and I'm messy. I thank you that you love everybody in this room, and they're messy. And everyone playing at the park and playing baseball or next door at the event center, driving along the highway. God, I just pray that we can be a place where people can come and feel accepted, where we can be vulnerable without judgment. We can still coach and love and lead, but at the same time accept. So I just pray this week for everybody here, God, whatever mess they find themselves in at this moment, big or small, by choice or by accident, I pray that they will lean on you like never before. And they will also find somebody that they can trust and be someone that can be trusted to do messiness together. In your name I pray. Amen.